Good morning, everyone.
Hi everyone, how are you doing?
Welcome back to another episode of Connected and Committed Podcast.
Yes, welcome back. Thank you for if you've been with us. Thank you for supporting us in that way. We're really thankful, and we hope that everything that we put out is helpful for you guys.
Yeah.
And if you're new, well, welcome.
Yeah, welcome. Truly. Whoever, if you got referred to this by somebody else or anything, I just really we appreciate the support, all of it.
Yeah,
And we hope these episodes have been helpful for you and they continue to be helpful for you.
yeah.
Um,
We're always surprised by, like, we hear sometimes we have our friends are like, oh, like this person in my circle listened to you guys, and we're
yeah,
like, what? It's
that
so
was
weird.
like trippy. I was like, what?
Like even people who are not even like not for relationship's sake.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
kind of interesting. So I feel like it's interesting. Maybe we can branch out a little more sometimes.
Listen, we have a whole therapist mind here and experience. We could talk about a lot of things for sure. And I think all of it can relate to some aspect of this. I think just like mental health in general is super important. Um, and so, yeah,
Yeah,
we shall see, especially if people have um, topics that they want us to talk about in regards to that. That's interesting to think about. But I kind of want to give a shout out to somebody and hope it's not embarrassing to them. I don't know if I should.
no, it's fine.
Okay, I'm gonna do a shout out.
Yeah,
Just you, maybe you know who you are. There was somebody in our circle who mentioned somebody else who gave them another referral. It was like a very weird connection, but it was very cool. And so,
yeah.
anyway,
Deep in the Texas countryside,
deep, yeah,
and we're like, what? That's funny.
yeah. But anyway,
Yeah,
we are just going to jump right into the conversation today. We want to talk about obsession, and maybe you can give kind of a reference of your thought process with this, because this is a topic that you felt like would be helpful to talk about.
isn't it like the name of a song? Isn't it like a famous song called
Why are you
Obsession?
so obsessed with me? No,
Yeah, I don't
that's Mariah
know,
Carey. I don't know.
but interesting. Um, Anyways, so yeah, obsession. Well, the reason I wanted to bring that up is because I feel like we have some clients, um, and like one-on-one clients, and people just reaching out who have this thought that like they should be obsessed with their partner
Hmm.
in order for them to feel like they're in love or like 100% in with their partner, and they might not use the word like obsession, but what they are describing with what they want to feel is very much like obsession. So
Yeah.
they feel like they want to think about their partner all the time. They always want to have this admiration
Hmm.
for their partner all the time, um, and they want to have them constantly in their thought all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think too, there's this perception that if this isn't exactly how they're thinking about them, because maybe their negative thoughts show up or their anxious thoughts show up, and they're like, when something is wrong, and then maybe
Yeah,
something is wrong with me. Um, and this can show up whether you've been in a relationship for only like 6, 7 months, or whether you've been in a relationship and dating for like past 10 years. Like, I think that I've heard this question in different ways.
yeah,
Um, so I think it's a good question to kind of discuss.
yeah. I agree. I think, you know, I think this thing of obsession. Anytime someone tells me that, like, I'm just, you know, I'm just realizing that people just have like wrong expectations of what love is supposed to be like,
Yeah.
and they feel like they're obligated to think about their partner constantly.
Mhm.
Otherwise, it means that they don't love them,
Right.
and so they're confused. Because I would say, for me personally, I've had like times where I was obsessed with girls I had feelings for
Mhm.
back then. I don't know if you
Yeah,
experienced that.
for
Yeah.
sure. For sure.
And what I've noticed is that it's usually because like I'm trying to get something that I don't have. So before even being in a relationship with them. when I'm realizing that I have feelings for them,
Mm-hmm.
and you're in this talking phase or dating phase or whatever, and you get all this excitement
Right.
going, and like, because everything is new and you're so excited over the idea of being in a relationship with them, and so you feel like you think constantly about them, and it feels nice because it's like, oh wow, I'm really into them,
Mm-hmm.
um and I think that could be an interesting podcast episode, actually, because I just thought about it and I was like, I think it'd be really interesting, but you tell me what you think. But I think there's also, uh when people are in that phase, like a newer relationship, like a
Mm-hmm.
fresher relationship, Christians, they feel like the fact that they think about the person they're talking to or they have feelings for, the fact that they think about them all the time, like, is like idolatry.
Mm. Yeah, that's
Remember, it's like,
100%.
and they were like,
100%.
I can't. It's like, oh, I feel like I'm doing something wrong, and God is not first anymore
Yep.
because I think about that person all the time. And I remember I had that too. I had that question too when I was dating in the past. And I think that could be an interesting podcast to
Yeah,
talk about.
that's a good one. I think
It,
that's a good interesting topic.
it's I think it's the other side of the spectrum. Is like, is obsession okay? But here in this podcast, we're talking about, like, you know, the fact that you've been dating and you feel like you maybe don't have this obsession anymore, and that worries you.
Right.
And we're here to tell you to not worry. But to be honest, we're here to tell you not worry ever.
Yeah.
Because worry never helps in any situation. But obviously, in this situation, like, obsession and like having those constant thoughts about your partner, to me personally, is, I feel, very much due to the newness of things and the excitement that comes with that, and the feelings. You know what I mean? Like, it's emotional.
Mm-hmm. And I want to say too that this also, I think, comes from people whose worth is, this is gonna be another podcast episode, but who's like thinks that this person is gonna bring so much value for them. Because if I've realized that too, whenever
Mm,
I felt really insecure and felt like, oh my gosh, like this person is so cool and so whatever, and this person likes me, oh my gosh, like this is so awesome. And so you're always just like thinking about it all the time, be like, okay, like I really hope they still like me. And that's one other thing, but also just being like, this person's incredible. I'm in awe of them. Like I'm always thinking about them, always whatever. I think sometimes obsession can come from insecurity. And I think that's not always, we can see on maybe social media and some like, I'm not saying like you of course people love their partner, but you like you having to constantly 100% 24/7 think about them and have good feelings for them and have good
mm,
thoughts for them and be like, oh my gosh, they're just the best person ever, I'm so lucky and whatever. There's such a different spectrum from why that shows up for people. Just because it happens for some people doesn't mean that's a right or wrong thing. It just is a thing.
yeah.
And you not having that does not determine or mean that you are not in the right place in your relationship. It
Hmm.
might just mean that you're actually pretty secure in it.
Yes, that's good. I like that, actually. Yeah, I think that, because I think there's another situation, where obsession can be very present. So I feel like we brought up two different ones. So,
Hmm.
like, I brought up the fact that, like, when it's a new
Right, right.
relationship, you just said obsession, because you feel like you need to get, like, worth out of the person
Mm-hmm.
you're with,
Yeah,
and you have this need, um, to be with someone who's quote unquote better than you,
yeah.
um, to be able to feel comfortable about your relationship. And then for me, I'm thinking about a third one, and I feel like it's like toxic relationships.
Mm,
Like, I feel like that's
yeah.
something that shows up a lot in toxic relationships, like this, obsession, that it's all emotional, because there's
Mm-hmm.
like really strong emotions in toxic relationships. So it's like three
Yeah.
different situations. There might be more, but from what we can, see, and then what we've experienced and stuff, those are probably three common situations where people would be obsessed.
Mm,
So that's kind of interesting. Obviously, whenever we're talking about obsession for like toxic relationships, well, that's not good. Like, the fact here is the obsession is not necessarily the problem. The problem is that you're in a toxic relationship.
mm,
So that's not great. Um, the other one that you talked about well, there's something deeper to that. It means that you need to work on loving yourself more and finding that self-esteem and finding value for yourself and not taking it out of people. Uh, and then the third one is, I'd say, like the normal type of obsession, which is, the newness of a relationship,
Hmm.
where like you said, as you move forward in your relationship and you get more comfortable and you get more settled, and it's I think your emotions, when especially when you're in a safe and healthy relationship, your emotions kind of like stabilize,
Yeah.
and you become more familiar, which is a double-edged sword, because you can be familiar, and that can be it is a good thing, because it's like, oh, like you're getting more comfortable with the person
Hmm.
and you're trusting them more. But then obviously the other edge of the sword is, well, you become familiar and you feel like you're settling,
Right.
and there should be
Sure.
more emotions, and
Hmm.
it should be more passion, more obsession,
Right.
when in reality you're just in a really good spot, and right now you're learning what it takes to love someone, which is intentionality, and not just this passive passion and obsession.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's to make that distinction. I think is huge. Of if you have been in a relationship for a long time,
Mm.
um, there's going to be a difference between what you're feeling and what you're experiencing, right? Because I think that you might, in the beginning, you're feeling all these things because it's so new, and you're kind of like, is this going to work? And what do they really like me and whatever. When you start to know those things, like once your head and your heart really come to the same terms of like, this person really is here for me, it's such a different type of experience. You're not always just like thinking about them because you know that they're here, right? You're not always like questioning it, like not questioning, but like, oh my gosh, like whatever about them, because it's like, okay, I just think your brain already knows those are things are true in a good way, and so
Mm.
it's kind of like your things that you focus on are typically based off of things that you're not 100% sure you're going to get, or it's kind of based off of like things that you're still working towards, if that makes sense. So in my mind, for example, it might be, oh, I'm always thinking about, I don't know, business or finances or blah 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 blah, for example. But for people who are billionaires, they're not thinking about money because they know they already have it. You know what I mean? That's like the least thing on their mind, because it's like I could spend half of it and I still have more than what most people have in the world. You know what I mean? It's kind of like your thoughts aren't hyper focusing on things, or like quote unquote obsessed over it, because you feel secure in it. And for them, I don't even know what they're thinking about. Like, I don't know, to be honest. Maybe they're thinking about something
You
else,
probably have other things to think
other
about, to
things to
be
think about for
honest.
sure. But it's not like, if you're concerned about something or really, really focusing on something, it typically is coming from a space of not 100% certain about something, or you're still figuring it out, or it's still exciting, it's still new. But once it becomes familiar, the intensity is not there anymore.
Yeah.
And I think too, just to address this, for people who have been with somebody, like I say, you've been dating since high school, even like, or like college, and now you guys are like in your 20s or 30s. You guys have been dating for like 10 years, like, or like a very, very long time. Your If you have anxiety, your anxiety has a very difficult time at times to figure out. You're kind of like, oh, I've been with this person for a long time. Like, is this something that's different? Is this something that's new? And sometimes you kind of are like, you start to see this relationship as very, very familiar and very much as like, is this still is this still serving me, and type of thing. And I just kind of want to challenge that too, because sometimes when you've seen somebody live life for the past 10 years, you kind of grew up with them, you've seen so many more flaws than somebody who just started dating somebody. And I think in that same situation, that's like, you have to begin to see them as who they are now and where you guys are going now, and not hyper fixate on the things that you saw before.
Yeah.
Because I think it's easy to kind of be like, oh well, I can just be with somebody right now who's established, quote unquote, or who's in my mind, I think, where I feel like I want to be.
Mm.
But you're kind of disregarding kind of the history that you've had with this person, and sometimes the feelings will change, and the feelings will look so much different because you've been with that person for so long, you
Yeah.
know. And so I wanted to add that in there too, because I've gotten this in different ways. People who've been with each other for so long, your feelings are going to look so much different than somebody who's just started dating somebody, and you're kind of comparing your experience with somebody who just started something, and
Mm.
it's just not the same.
Yeah. That's true. That's true, and I think that's really important to remember that because, well, I mean, comparison, anyways, like
Yeah.
comparison in general is it's just not great. That's the thing with a lot of people struggle with, obviously, with social media. Um, but yeah, you know, obsession, like obsession is like the lack of obsession is not a sign that like your relationship is wrong
Exactly.
and or that you don't love your partner. You know, like because if you feel like obsession or this having like thinking constantly about your partner or whatever means that you're 100% in love, then again like you're switching to this passive type of love that requires no intentionality.
Mm.
And love is a verb, which means it's an action. Like love is not just a word, it's not something that happens magically
Mm.
and then you just hope that it will stay like that. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I think that's what a lot, but that's you know that's something we talk about a lot. But yeah, like and even if like you were like, oh, I feel like I've never been obsessed with my partner or whatever, like that doesn't mean that you don't love them. Like it doesn't like not every relationship needs an obsession phase.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Mm-hmm.
I think
That's
that
really good, babe.
yeah, I think for people, especially for people who are more secure emotionally, and more stable emotionally, like or even I would say probably like older people, it doesn't necessarily have that phase, you know, like and that's okay, that's normal, and it might mean that you're just more mature, you know, in your life in general.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And I think too, we watched Love Is Blind Japan,
Hmm.
like while we were on our trip, and just there's such a huge difference between kind of what they determine and kind of like how they're picking somebody, and even on their first experience in this first encounter, such a different experience. I feel like in the U.S., at least Love Is Blind U.S. I think our culture really emphasizes feelings and passion and
Yeah,
kiss and like touch and we should have sex and whatever. Like we really like, emphasize these things and how to know if this person is right. And they like logically thought about everything. Like, okay, how is this going to fit in my life? Blah blah and whatever. And naturally, some feelings occurred, but like we didn't see them like we saw couples kiss at the wedding. I think we saw them kiss like 1 2 times, but it like their feelings really didn't dictate a lot of the like a lot of the things. And I think that when you're saying that not everybody has an obsession phase, I think we overly emphasize this feeling of we're supposed to have this like really intensity in the beginning,
yeah,
and if we don't have that, then something is wrong. When that's actually not the case, a lot of people don't actually have that because that's not what they're thinking about.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like I'm sure that stuff shows up, but it's like they're thinking really logically, and not saying being thinking too logically isn't always great either. You know what I mean? Because it can kind of think you out of it as well.
mm,
But I'm more just saying in the sense of we hyper focus on this feeling needing to be there, and if it's not there, we really our anxiety will just take over.
mm,
When we just have to stop emphasizing so much on how much we need to feel. Like
yeah,
feeling doesn't always determine a good direction, or that means like something is like right. It just like you know what I mean. It just
yeah.
is a kind of extra symptom of something showing up.
I think our culture is like like Western culture and Japanese culture. They're like on two extremes in
Yeah.
terms of like Western culture is very much emotional and like feelings based, and Japanese culture is very much like head
Yep. Definitely.
and thinking. And so I think both of these have flaws,
Yeah.
and I think the right the right thing is in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's kind of interesting, but yeah, listen, you're fine where you're at. You're not obsessed with your partner. That's fine. I I'm not obsessed with Joy, and she's not obsessed with me. Like we love each other very much, um, but and we had I think for me personally, like and I don't know for you, but we did have that phase where I don't know if we can call it obsession, but like where we thought about each other a lot. Because we were starting to think and we liked each other
Yeah.
and we were talking a lot and that was nice, you know, that was a nice phase. But
Mm-hmm.
like I knew personally that that wasn't gonna last,
Hmm.
because I knew like that's just how it is, like that's normal. And if you think about just life in general, like even for yourself, like when is the last time you were thinking about something that you really wanted, and so you thought about it a lot,
All the time.
and then
Yeah.
once you had it, like you stopped thinking about it,
Hmm.
or it was just not the same, like that's just how the brain works, like in even though we'd like to think that for relationship it'd be different, it's the same.
Hmm.
Like your brain will process things the same way, and so it's like you're thinking about getting a new car, and then you're looking it up, and you're trying to find all the details about it and all the reasons why you like that car, and you're so excited, and then you get that car, and then you're like so happy, but then the more you drive it, in 2, 3, 4, 5 months down the line, it's just your car. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and it's nice, and you still like can enjoy it, but you're not thinking constantly about it.
Yeah.
Like, it's and that's normal. And that, or vacation, like you're looking forward to a vacation. You look up all the things, and you're so excited, and you're thinking about it a lot, and then you get there and you enjoy it. Obviously, a vacation is even more like
Good experience.
temporary,
Yeah.
because it's short in time, but then like and you come back and you probably have this thing of like depression after a
Yeah.
travel, but then like you move on, you know what I
Think
mean?
of a new
And
trip. Honestly.
yeah, and so it's like you can't expect the to be high like that all the time, like, and I think I just think personally it's very unhealthy to be like that, because it's like you don't have anything else in your life, like that is your life, like that's all you have.
Right.
I feel like when people are like that, I'm just when they're we know people like that, or we've seen people like that where like they're constantly like talking about their husband or their wife and how amazing they are, and that's great, but like, do you not have anything else to talk about
Sure. Sure.
or to think
I
about?
think too that's where I you can kind of question to be like how much of your worth is coming from this relationship, and
Mm,
like the like I'm gonna say the kindest way possible, because like if the person isn't, if this relationship isn't like where your worth is tied to, then it's not. It's like, Matthew, you are my best friend and I love you so much, and I also feel very secure in our relationship, so it's not something where I'm constantly thinking about it, you know what I mean? Because I'm like,
yeah,
I feel very very confident in our relationship, I'm not worried about it, and so I don't have to think about it when I'm like traveling. If I'm by myself,
oh
then I
yeah,
think about
that's
you often
different.
because I'm like, I'm sad, I miss you, like, but you're not here. Like, when you're with me, I don't need to
Yeah,
feel like it's, I'm not thinking about you all the time, like, oh my gosh, like, what is he doing, oh my gosh, like, I love him so much, like, whatever, you know what I mean? Because I it's like a knowing, I know I love you. And this is also too when like the intentionality has to be continued
mm,
as well, because you feel so familiar and secure doesn't mean you just kind of let it go, right? Like you have to continue to, as we
nurture it.
always talk about, nurture this relationship and
Yeah,
make sure that that's still a priority.
yeah,
But I'm like, we're not obsessed with each other,
yeah.
and I don't wouldn't want that to be the case, because then I think if I'm obsessed with you, that means I'm worried about something, and that I'm kind of just not feeling secure in it. Um,
But I
and
think I think that if you're obsessed with someone like that, and then they make a mistake,
hmm,
they're gonna you put them on a pedestal, and they're gonna uh, fall off of that pedestal, and
very quickly,
it's gonna be like it's gonna get hard for you, I think.
yeah,
It's because you might like uphold a picture of them that is too high,
hmm,
of a
hmm,
of a standard or of expectations,
yeah,
um and that's not good.
it's not,
And I think some people kind of like that dynamic, but I just think it's very unhealthy.
hmm,
um and it's important to remember that. I think that some cultures, like where the husband is emphasized more, um there might be a dynamic
hmm,
like that.
yeah, I see what you're saying, yeah,
um but
yeah,
in our culture it's not like that, and both people are like an equal part, um and like both of them can have a career, both of them, like, you know what I mean,
hmm,
like it's it's very 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 different. But yeah, I guess this this episode was to tell you about not worrying if like your experience in your relationship is not like you thinking constantly about the other person
Yeah.
and being what's that expression, like head over heels, is
Head
that
over heels. Yeah.
yeah, when you think about your partner, and like that's that's normal, it's okay, you don't have to worry about a thing, don't you worry about a thing. um yeah, and we hope that this kind of brought some clarity to what you're experiencing, or if this was a question you had of like, I feel like I'm not thinking about my partner all the time, or blah
Yeah.
blah blah. Yeah, and like we said, we're gonna have another, because we thought about it, we're gonna have another episode talking about obsession and Christians,
Yeah.
like,
In the
or
next couple weeks.
this constant thinking as Christians, because obviously, like, even though here in this episode we said it's okay if you don't have that, well, there is uh like there is an area of that topic where like it's okay if you have that, you know what I mean,
Right. It's okay if you're thinking about them
like
or
in a
wanting. Yeah.
specific
Yeah. Yeah.
context
Yes.
that we'll talk about later.
Yes. We will talk about it. Do not worry. Do not fret if that's something you're experiencing. Because I think that that's something that some of my clients are experiencing too. So yes, we will. I
Do you
feel
want
like.
to talk about RAA real quick?
Oh yes. If you have not joined or have been thinking about joining RAA, now's the time, because I think that this is we are on our well, if you join, you'll be on your first month. We're going to be putting out our second month's content um, in the next week. But this is definitely a place where you can share your concerns, share your, like, if you're somebody who's just like, I'm dealing with relationship anxiety, I just need kind of a community of people to understand, like, one, I'm not alone in experiencing it, but two, kind of getting, this is a way, like, since we're only two people, we can't do like 100 one-on-one sessions, like, you know what I mean, we can't, like, we just don't have the time, unfortunately, not even hours in the week, it's impossible. And so this is a way for you to get our time and us be kind of pouring in. We have once a month Q&A, and even like hot seat coaching, depending on the call and what's going on in that session or that call, once a month. We have one a masterclass that's dropped every month, and then you also, if you're part of RAA, like, you obviously are communicating through people, and you can make sure you ask questions and kind of have a student-led support group. And then you also get 20% off discounts working with us for even one-on-one or group coaching.
Yeah.
So it's a great way to put your foot in the door, and also kind of like, okay, I want to try it out. I really want to see what this is like for me, but also I know I need help. I know I need some support in some way. And if you can't invest a lot, this is only $39 a month.
Which is not much.
No,
if you think about it, it's 4 trips to Starbucks,
which is crazy. But yeah, that's true.
or McDonald's or whatever. 4 trips to a fast food chain.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Well, McDonald's maybe not,
or even less. Even less, depending on what kind of fast food you like.
That's fair. Yeah, that's true. So it really isn't a high investment, and we really believe that this is going to be really valuable and beneficial for those who join. And so we will put the link below.
Yeah.
And
we like you guys.
We like you guys a lot. And yeah, I think it's going to be good. And if even too, we'll put the freebie below as well. We have a freebie for that if you kind of are like, I think I want to work with you guys, I'm unsure, like, if this would be helpful, we have a free masterclass.
Yeah.
Is it anxiety or intuition? And so we will put that below, and you guys can like get the link for that and watch that, and that'll be helpful as well. And just to see if this is something that you feel like will be, if like, am I actually experiencing anxiety, or is it maybe it's intuition? This will give you clarity on that.
Yeah. Thank you so much for listening or watching. Subscribe, rate, review, share, like, comment, whatever you want to do or whatever you can do to support this and support us.
We really appreciate it.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. But yeah, thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.
Yep. Love y'all.
Bye.